listening to Program Notes for the Florida Orchestra's Huff Family Foundation Masterwork Series. I'm Andy Tchaikovsky, social media manager of the Florida Orchestra, classically trained percussionist, and the host of this podcast. In this episode, I will be talking about Gabriele Lena Frank's Elegia Andina, Piotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky's Variations on a Rococo Theme, Zoltan Kodaly's Dances of Galánta, and Georges Bizet's Carmen Suites Numbers 1 and 2, so you can dive deeper into the music anytime, anywhere. These audio program notes are authored by Kurt Loft, a local writer who has written about the arts in the Tampa Bay area for more than 40 years. You can find his full transcriptions at floridaorchestra.org. All right, let's dive in. Gabriele Lena Frank, born 1972. Elegia Andina, or Andean Elegy. Performance duration approximately 11 minutes. Part of the Florida Orchestra's mission is to introduce listeners to music of our day while keeping alive the classics that were, in their own time, new. This is why you see unfamiliar names on current and recent programs such as Garth Neustadter, Guillaume Connaisson, Michael Ippolito, Lair Auerbach, Polina Nazayakinskaya, and Mindaugas Urbaitis. One composer who you can expect to hear more of is Gabriele Lena Frank. TFO having whetted our appetites with past performances of Apu, tone poem for orchestra, and 3 Latin American dances. Born in Berkeley, California, she's composer in residence with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and the Washington Post recently named her one of the 35 most significant women composers in history. Her diverse heritage and physical impairment, she says, inspire her artistry. Quote, I firmly believe that only in the United States could a Peruvian, Chinese, Jewish, Lithuanian girl born with significant hearing loss in a hippie town successfully create a life writing string quartets and symphonies, she has said. I don't look like most composers in classical music. I'm not white, I'm a woman, and I'm alive. End quote. She devotes time to those in need in prisons and hospitals and believes in teaching young musicians the importance of community engagement. She works with deaf African American students who rap in sign language. As the child of a multicultural marriage, Frank's early days were filled with Chinese stir-fry cuisine, Andean nursery songs, and frequent visits from her New York-bred Jewish cousins. All of this had an impact on her style, which she describes as a mishmash of multiculturalism, of, quote, several ethnic persuasions. Quote, I write to tell stories, and stories exist to enlarge our reality so that we can really be human, not merely a reactive organism, she has said. Sometimes the stories are clumsy or new to me, as with Elegia Andina, my first orchestra work. I was sweating bullets the entire time I was putting notes to the page. Yet even then, my motivation was the same, to touch people and remind them how large this beautiful world is. I humbly ask to be that messenger, end quote. Frank composed Elegia Andina in 2000, and it stands as a remarkable achievement for a first orchestral attempt. The tone poem evokes the majesty of the 4,000-mile-long Andes Mountains through transparent and often haunting textures, raw rhythmic shifts driven forward by woodblocks and piercing harmonic notes. The music grows and growls, one moment a whisper, and the next an explosive crescendo. A pair of clarinets against tremolo strings leads us to a coda, up to which the dynamic between silence and sound is always present. Quote, her music is brilliant, says TFO music director Michael Francis, and everything is tied back to her South American heritage. Piotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, 1840 to 1893, Variations on a Rococo Theme, Opus 22, performance duration approximately 18 minutes. The word Rococo comes from a decorative style of 18th century architecture known for elegant lines and lavish ornament. The word aptly describes the central theme of Tchaikovsky's Variations on a Rococo Theme, which playfully captures a musical style popular between the Baroque and Classical periods. Tchaikovsky adored Mozart, and while the piece is by no means a tribute to the great Austrian composer, it hints of his fascination with the linear clarity of the classical models perfected by Mozart. This was noted by Tchaikovsky's biographer, John Warwick, who said the composer's, quote, sympathy with the Rococo is shown in his ability to construct melody that is impeccably classical, yet unmistakably marked with his own personality, end quote. If Tchaikovsky had anything, it was musical personality, and the variations reflect the composer working confidently in a form far removed from his more autobiographical works. In a sense, this piece gave Tchaikovsky the freedom to explore musical themes rather than musical emotions. It also is the closest Tchaikovsky came to writing a concerto for cello, as the soloist must exploit the full range of the instrument, in this case through 8 sets of variations, or 7 if using the altered version by cellist Wilhelm Fitzenhagen, to whom Tchaikovsky dedicated the work. The final segment opens with a graceful solo that evolves into a crescendo and alludes to themes from earlier variations. Scored for a reduced orchestra, the variations assume a chamber-like texture and balance the sweetness of the classical style with a romantic warmth, the soloist never leaving the spotlight, much less having a moment to rest. Zoltan Kodaly, 1882 to 1967, Dances of Galánta. Performance duration approximately 16 minutes. Like his fellow countryman Béla Bartók, Kodaly loved the folk music of Hungary and wove its rich tradition of song into much of his music. The two men formed a society to promote the contemporary music of their homeland and to preserve its folk lineage. With his inquisitive mind, Kodaly explored most every aspect of music, not only as a composer, but as a critic, ethnomusicologist, conductor, and teacher. This combination of skills kept Kodaly engaged everywhere he went, and he spent a good deal of his career lecturing, conducting, composing, and teaching. He established a school curriculum throughout Hungary, and his teaching method continues to be used in school systems in the United States and Europe. When Kodaly died, he had achieved his 2 greatest goals: to promote Hungarian folk tunes and to bring music to children. Kodaly's catalog spans 7 decades, with his compositions dating from 1897, the year Rachmaninoff premiered his first symphony, to his final work in 1966, when the Beatles released Revolver. Among the best loved of Kodaly's creations is his Dances of Galánta, written in 1933 as a symphonic poem. The work is set in a rondo form, in which the first or main theme reappears between other sections, and again at the end. Kodaly infused this work with material from an 18th century dance called the verbunkos, the inspiration behind Franz Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsodies. Kodaly began by collecting tunes he knew while living in the town of Galánta, and the music captures the boisterous nature of the dances that came from them. The virtuosic showpiece for orchestra, Galánta, is full of rich, earthy detail and extroverted writing for woodwinds, brass, and strings. More of a tone poem than a suite, it opens with a solemn theme, a lento that alternates through different tempos and moods of key and character. An allegretto follows, and then 3 successive allegro movements. The famed finale may remind listeners of a Russian Cossack dance, and its vivid rhythms have been a crowd favorite since the work's inception. Georges Bizet, 1838 to 1875. Carmen Suites numbers 1 and 2. Performance duration approximately 12 minutes and 19 minutes. Would it be safe to say that Georges Bizet's Carmen is the world's most popular opera? Puccini's La Bohème and Mozart's Marriage of Figaro are crowd favorites, but Carmen, a veritable hit list of good tunes, endears the veteran opera lover as much as those new to the art form. The vibrancy of Bizet's score and the tale of the strong-willed, ill-fated woman resonated from the opera's premiere in 1875, an ideal synthesis of score, plot, and psychological drama. Carmen prompted several reductions for orchestra when the Russian composer Rodion Shadrin began crafting music for a 1-act ballet for the Cuban choreographer Alberto Alonso. He envisioned an homage to Bizet through a fresh color palette. It would become Shadrin's most popular work. The 2 suites on this program are another arrangement, this time by Bizet's friend Ernest Guiraud, who kept the music as close to the original as possible. However, the suites aren't in chronological order, rather they depict the opera's action in reverse. This season, we wanted to give you a few key things to listen for in each Masterworks program. Here's what to keep an ear out for in this program. In Gabriele Lena Frank's Elegia Andina, note the principal flute solo, which was inspired by the exotic sound of Peruvian double-row panpipes. In Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky's Variations on a Rococo Theme, The soloist almost never stops playing throughout the variations, her instrument in perpetual motion from one tune to another. In Zoltán Kodaly's Dances of Galánta, the lively dance that ends the work comes from music of a semi-nomadic group of Russian warriors known as Cossacks. In Georges Bizet's Carmen Suites Nos. 1 and 2, the tunes are played in reverse order of the opera, but no matter, their infectious charm works in any arrangement. Thank you for listening to Sound Waves with the Florida Orchestra. Enjoy the concert.